Boxing's boogeyman is back. Artur Berterbiev with a KO of Anthony Yarde in a better fight than I expected. I don't know what you guys thought at home, but this was a fight going in that I know Yarde is relatively capable. He fought a decent fight against Sergey Kovalev, who was a fading Sergey Kovalev. But, I didn't expect much from him in this fight, and I don't think very many people did. But ultimately, I thought he gave a really good account of himself. Could it be that the boogeyman Berterbiev is getting a little older? Do we credit Yarde? Is it a little bit of both? I think Berterbiev came out with his usual aggression, but he was walking into some check hooks from Yarde. They weren't really deterring him, but we do notice that Berterbiev is a hittable target. He's been down twice in his career, but the thing is, if you're gonna choose to sit down on your shots against Berterbiev, you could get him down as it's happened 2 times in his career. But at the same time, if you sit on your shots like that, you're gonna put yourself in harm's way a lot. And I noticed the same thing. Ultimately, I can remember the Alexander Vosnik fight where Vosnik boxed very, very well against a younger Berterbiev, but ultimately Berterbiev does get to you. He breaks you down and he eventually takes you out. He's got a 100% knockout ratio in his career. But this fight, I don't know, it looked a little bit different. He looked a little bit more hittable. It wasn't like Yarde was being that crafty, but he was a little bit of a herky-jerky. He's always had a little bit of a herky-jerky style to him. I actually thought Yarde was a little bit less herky-jerky than usual. I thought he did a good job of holding position a lot of times and firing his shots from where he was. He did give some movement, don't get me wrong, but there was some good moments. I think if you notice, dude, the subtle things Berterbiev does, man. There was I think it was in the second round where Yarde was up in the corner and or he had Berterbiev in the corner and Berterbiev got himself spun him around off the corner, and then Yarde is trying to move against the ropes. He's trying to slide out, and you notice Berterbiev kind of cuts the ring off instead of chasing him up against the ropes. A lot of guys would have just chased him. It's about the midway point of the second round, and a lot of guys would have chased Yarde right up against those ropes, and Yarde would have maybe circled around. But Berterbiev right away didn't think to attack right away. He thought to find the position first and then stay in front of Yarde. I think ultimately Yarde in that moment found his way out with a right uppercut and created some space there. And that's one of the things that actually Yarde was having success with, but ultimately was his undoing. The right uppercut, which from the mid to long range is always a little bit of a dangerous punch to use, but it's weird. Even in my own boxing career, at times I've used it. It's a weird punch because they always say the backhand, the uppercut from the backhand, which from the right-handed position will be the right hand, from middle to long range is very, very dangerous because you could get hit with a shot while you're throwing it. And I noticed the same thing. I'll admit that's correct. But at the same time, it's also a shot that can be very successful. And sometimes you're in a fight where you need to take some risk with it, And I feel like Yarde was having some pretty good success with that uppercut. It's funny because he started throwing it right after Berterbiev. In that moment when he had some mild success there, when he cut him off and trapped Yarde, he actually started throwing the uppercut. And right after that, you start noticing Yarde starts using that uppercut sporadically over the course of the fight and landed it. I thought he landed it pretty well several different times. But I did remember thinking to myself, man, he's got to be careful. I thought he was going to end up getting himself hit with a left hook. I thought Berterbiev maybe was eventually going to try to start timing him with a left hook. But ultimately, his undoing was Berterbiev threw a chopping right hand over the top while Yarde was throwing his own right uppercut. And if you're going to do that, you got to have your hand, try to at least have your hands in good position. Yarde's left hand was down. And so as he's throwing that right uppercut, he took a right-handed shot, chopping right hand from Berterbiev. And he didn't go down right away. I think it took a second right hand for him to go down. But ultimately, that was the end. The referee, was it a little early? Did the corner stop it a little early? Possibly, but I think Yarde was on his way out there. I think the moral victory was accomplished in that he gave a better account of himself than people thought, people expected. I think if he's allowed to continue in that moment, I don't think he survives. I just think he's just going to get pummeled a little bit more. So ultimately, while it's maybe a slightly early stoppage, I think he's on his way to getting stopped anyway. And he's 31 years old. He's still ascending. Maybe let him survive some of the extra punches he would have taken, and let him take it into the next fight. Where I think Yarde in a post Berterbiev boxing world has a chance to really compete for a world title. Honestly, you start thinking of what the possible fights for Yarde could be. I mean, Berterbiev's not going to last much longer. He's 37 years old, and like I said, I think he's starting to look a little beatable. He's yes, the punching power is there, but I think he's starting to look a little beatable. You start to think of all English clashes. I was watching the signal from BT Sport here. You start to think of like all English clashes, and that could be big fights. On a world stage in a post Berterbiev boxing world, and you start to think of Joshua Buatsi, who was commentating on the BT Sports telecast against Anthony Yarde. That would be a really, really good fight, honestly. It gets really, really interesting. You start to see which direction these fighters can go, because I don't think, like I said, I don't think Berterbiev has much time left. He's slowing down. He's getting a little bit hittable, and eventually, as you get older, these shots that he is taking, they will start to take effect on him, and he'll start to feel them a little bit more. And though his power is there, again, it's a young man's sport. Honestly, I don't think eliminating Berterbiev will be that easy, but I also feel like he's slightly fading here, and I think that's normal at his age. He's had a terrific career, a really scary guy. Like I said, call him boxing's boogeyman, and I think that's what he's been. But yeah, in this situation, I didn't have a problem with the corner stopping in the fight for Yarde. I think that Yarde ultimately was going to take more punishment, and I've seen some headlines and that it was a little bit of an early stoppage by the corner. But like I said, I don't think he was going to survive it. I think he was going to end up getting stopped anyway at that point, and I think he would have just taken more heavy shots. Let's keep in mind, Berterbiev is one of the hardest punchers in boxing, so I thought the stoppage was good, and Yarde had already accomplished what he needed to, what he was always going to accomplish once you saw a few rounds of this fight, which was a performance that most people didn't expect from him, a performance that's going to garner him respect, and a performance that I think is going to make him also, I wouldn't say must-see TV, but definitely a guy that people want to see again. And like I said, I wouldn't mind seeing a Buatsi Yarde fight, preferably for a world title once Berterbiev is gone, but Buatsi and Yarde I think would always be an entertaining fight nonetheless. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what your thoughts are on the light heavyweight division in general. Is Berterbiev slowing down? Is Yarde for real? I mean, he's come up short in probably his two biggest fights of his career, but he's performed very well in both. Do you think he can win at this level, or is he just one of those gatekeeper types? And who can beat? Who can and will beat Berterbiev? That there comes a certain point where everybody goes. Could it be the guy that I just mentioned, Josh Buatsi? I've always been very impressed with Josh Buatsi, but I feel like he's been held back a little bit by his team because of the danger that's posed out there in the light heavyweight division between Artur Berterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. Do you still want to see Dmitry Bivol and Berterbiev? Honestly, personally, up until now, I would have picked Berterbiev to beat Bivol, but I don't think in seeing this fight, he looked a little slow on his first step. He's a little too flat-footed and a little bit more hittable than usual, a little slower. And honestly, Bivol is very, very explosive. I think at this moment, after seeing this fight, I think I would probably pick Bivol to beat Berterbiev, which until this point, I hadn't thought that, But again, I think aging is a big factor. So let me know what you think in the comments section, guys. I'm Paulie Malignaggi. This is Paulie TV, and that was my comments on Berterbiev versus Yarde.